We are now recording. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. I am Death by Nature, aka Justin, and welcome to the ModCast. Everything live action gaming, modding, just making anything. Uh, and we are joined here today by Make.Test.Battle's Ryan, our
Hello.
local. Hey, Ryan. What's up? We are also joined here today by AeroMech, aka Chris. Say
What's up,
hi.
everybody?
Awesome.
Hi.
Hey. We are also
Hey.
joined here today by the wonderful Foam Data Services Tom, all the way from the UK,
Hello.
and also we are joined by Ben or Hawki007.
Heyo.
Yes.
So, to get this started off, if you guys just want to sort of say what you're about, what kind of things you like doing, just sort of let people know who may not have heard of you, which is sort of, if they haven't heard of AeroMech or Foam Data Services and, soon Hawkeye, it's kind of embarrassing, but, just give yourselves a quick introduction. We'll start with you, AeroMech, and go from
Gotcha.
there.
I'll start then. I'm AeroMech. I do a lot of homemade Nerf blasters. I do some
Services and,
Nerf modding as
soon
well,
Hawkeye. It's
store-bought
kind of
stuff.
embarrassing, but,
Do a lot of
just
cool,
give yourselves a quick
what I think
introduction.
of as
We'll
kind of
start with you,
innovative
AeroMech,
designs.
and,
This is kind of
go
my
from there.
This is kind of my hobby. I'll I start love doing then. it. I'm AeroMech Blasters, and my YouTube channel is
Whoops.
also by the name of AeroMech. So
You're not going,
check
are
me
you?
out if you haven't.
All right, and for those who haven't heard of Tom, which I find incredibly unlikely,
Yeah.
seeing
I
as
hope
we've
not,
had
anyway.
you on before.
Yeah. Well, I was a hot rodder really, and I kind of got into Nerf because it's cheaper than building cars, bikes, and other things, which are expensive.
Do
And
you have a reference for that?
What for the hot rodding? Or it's cheap.
For its cheap.
I've spent. I mean, you can spend your entire Nerf collection
Copious
in one
amounts.
trip to the parts store. The paint for my last car project cost more than my entire personal armory, so you can
Nice.
spend a lot of money doing that. And I needed something that was kind of that kept my skills sharp, and so I kind of stumbled into Nerf modding, and I found the Brit Nerf community. So big shout out to them because they've been a massive help to me. I do some custom builds for people across the globe. I've built for quite a few of the bigger players, and I'm known for Hydrodip. I'm known for some of my cosmetic work and my paint.
The original
And I
Hydro
also-
Dipper.
Yeah, kind of. I kind of was one of the first people to do it for Nerf. There must have been somebody before me that tried it, but I was the first person to really put that up and get
Yeah,
it out there.
definitely
Yeah.
innovated and popularized it.
Yeah, I hadn't seen anybody else do it, so I just thought, hell, I'm going to give this a go. And I'm lucky there's a guy behind me who's painted custom motorcycles and cars for 20 years, and he was just getting into it. So I had a buddy, and there's also a very good dip shop here over in Brixham called Dip Demons, and they are one of the top dip shops in the UK. And so it was nice that was just on my doorsteps, about half an hour from my house. So that was
Excellent.
handy. Yeah, so I had that expertise on hand to help me out with it because it's not an easy process. I'm also quite well known for my Flywheel builds. I fought in the battery wars, amongst other things. It's kind of like the Clone Wars for Flywheelers. You fought
Yep.
in the Clone Wars with my father. No, I fought in the battery wars with Farouk.
People
Um,
chunking lipos at each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Literally
or
started
crossfires.
Make.Test.Battle to make people not use truss fires.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So-
moving alongwards, the last person on the stream today with us
Oh.
is Hawki007. Now, you're sort of haven't been on the stream before, but I know that you have watched it before because we've chatted in the comments and the chat sometimes. So,
Yeah, so
how about
I
you let
have,
everyone know?
I have mainly a background in prop making, specifically fabrication of different stuff. I work with professional grade materials and kind of started back in Halo 1, and I worked from cardboard and duct tape, literally, and then I worked all the way up to fiberglass, and then eventually polyurethane resins and molding and different stuff like that.
Just to interject, the current image on screen is your blaster. If you'd like
It
to tell
is.
us about that.
Justin
So,
has been going crazy about this bloody thing. Every
uh,
10 seconds, I swear.
so I was building a, what is this called? Straven, and I already started cutting out the battery door on the Raven for a battery for LEDs, and then I realized, wait a second, there's like no place to put LEDs on a Raven or Straven. And so I was kind of thinking, and I said, well, I guess I could just replace the parts. So it's a little more technical than just molding and casting, but basically I fixed them up and molded them and casted them, and it came out better than I anticipated it to. And I worked at one point 60 hours in 1 week on this project, and then it sold in 8 hours after I posted it. So it was a little heartbreaking to let go so fast, but it came out well.
And
Yeah,
and legend was born. I,
look of the clear is fantastic.
yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. So that's so Ben is kind of Hawkeye is kind of, I guess, a more newcomer, I guess, into the YouTube nerfing space, and so I really the what is it? Popularity is not the permit to entry on this. It's more so if you've built something and it's cool and you're willing to talk about it. That's kind of what this show's all about. So yeah. Okay, getting into the news. First bit of news that kind of just popped up this morning when I woke up. Oh yeah. Now, because we have to balance out the US and also the UK, Ryan and I have had to get up at 6 a.m. for this. Okay, so yeah, hopefully I can't remember.
Wait, so you lied to us? It wasn't a good evening?
It's an evening for you, okay? It's an
Well,
evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an
Put
evening.
it this way, 90% of our viewers are from the US. Like, we're Australian, but we can't really deny the fact that our audience is American. So we sort of need to tailor it a little bit towards that more than anything. Like, I think there's more British viewers than Australian viewers.
Yeah,
Last I
Yeah.
checked.
just population-wise, because 20 million versus 35 or whatever, how many million, in the UK, but anyway, what was I gonna say?
News.
Yeah, news. No, there was something else. Who cares? Anyway, on to the news. So, the first thing that kind of popped in my stream this morning on Facebook is that the knockoff Chinese company who makes a lot of knockoff Nerf blasters, Blazestorm, have put up a listing
Oh
for
God.
the knockoff Zeus rival.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
jeez. I have not seen that.
Yeah,
Okay.
this
Now I'm
literally
actually
just
alt-tab
went
into
up
the
this
stream
morning.
to see it, because...
It looks really cool from what I've seen of it. I am totally in favor of all the Nerf knockoff stuff, like all the Busby stuff, all that. I love it because I'm
Oh,
just gonna mod it. I'm just gonna mod it
delicious
anyway,
copyright
so
infringement.
it doesn't even matter. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say.
Just let it happen.
Just stare at it.
Wow. That's,
That's the thing.
More emotion and not enough words.
I'm actually keen to see, like, just to get my mitts on it, to have a look. It might be a cheaper alternative than trying to buy a US one and then trying to import it, because
That's
we
true.
get far cheaper imports from China, and yeah, yes,
what I'm really keen, I hope, is that this means that they've put actual effort into making the balls properly. I know that's really difficult to say of China, but
Well,
You know,
hey, hang on.
I really
Nerf
hope so.
blasters are made in China. Official Nerf. Every iPhones, everything's made in China.
True,
it's
true,
totally,
but there's
it's
made
totally
in China.
But there's difference.
There's
to
qualities.
different
There's a
standards.
difference
Yes.
between the quality control
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
how everything is put together in the manufacturing aspect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
Totally depends on what the client specifies for quality control.
So let's hope that these
I would
Blazestorm
be-
guys have asked for the rival balls that, aren't
Yeah.
terrible.
I would be very interested to see if the Nerf rival magazines interface with these, because then I think that's a huge benefit to them. Plus, if this Blazestorm sells magazines that will inversely interface with Nerf,
Yes,
for like
that
half
will
the
boost the
cost. That'd be
popularity of
great.
Rivals so much.
I think they might
Rivals,
try, but
I already
unless they
like Rivals. They're
completely
good.
like completely ripped off Nerf, I think that's going to be hard with the Zeus, especially because it has such a specific format to fit in all dimensions.
I mean, you give some guy, you know, a pair of calipers and you say, "Hey, do the thing."
Well, fitting well and fitting are two different things.
True, but if
Any thoughts, Tom?
I
yeah,
can't see it.
do
So I can't. I
you
can't put
guys use
Twitch up
Rival
without
in UK?
getting the feedback. Yeah, we do. It's now gone across from Toys. It was a Toys R Us exclusive, so that meant nobody could afford it. But it's now gone on general release. Some of the wholesalers have it. In fact, it appeared in my little one-horse town here. I actually saw it on the high street, so it is out there. It's certainly useful for things like LARP and other stuff, but it's not gained massive traction here because it's expensive and it's only been out for about 4 months.
Yeah. Rival was denied toy classification in Australia, so
Wow.
it's not banned. It just means it can't be retailed here.
Yeah,
So
It's a miracle you guys have My Little Pony as a toy over there. You've got the best toy legislation in the world. It's amazing.
the
yeah.
basically it falls under the same reason why we get grey triggers. The kinetic energy per area, it's the weirdest unit. Is just too high for the balls. So
But the
they can't-
EU uses the same thing. It's just that our limit is slightly higher, and the Americans just don't care. As long as children don't lose limbs, it's considered safe. I think.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
As long as it has an orange tip.
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, in some cases, some of these builds are more expensive than an actual gun in the States. So
Yeah.
it's not like
So-
you couldn't just play paintball anyway.
Our next bit of news is Australia specific. Specific.
Australia Pacific
Aw.
specific.
You know what I mean. So, Z-Town, the second Z-Town, the Deadlands that was going to be happening in Melbourne was postponed. This is probably news that's already known to all of the Australian Nerfers. However, they've already announced the next Z-Town event that is happening in Sydney in May.
We're gonna be there.
Yes,
because
where
it's freaking
Toad's
awesome.
going. So, yes, and
And that
yeah.
kicks us off nicely into our first topic of the day, and that is HVZ stories.
Well, but before we jump into that, what
I've been
exactly is
counter-jumped.
Zed?
So Z-Town
Oh, yeah.
is a
What is
fantastic
Z-Town for the American
creation
guys?
by a friend of mine. I suppose I should introduce it because we haven't really released any video. It's a really big HVZ game that's organized by a friend of mine, Dave Harmon, and it started at the University of Sydney, and it's just evolved into this huge on-campus one sort of afternoon event. So, a lot of American HVZs sort of go over a week between classes and stuff. But this is, 800 people was the biggest one on campus in a Nerf War HVZ style.
Wow.
Absolutely fantastic atmosphere. They put a bit of work into making, the quests, but, you just make your own fun, kill zombies, and everyone inevitably dies because, it's a stock war, and so you can't really go crazy with the mods because of, insurance reasons. But it's an absolutely incredible event, and we will have some footage of the most recent one that was down here in Melbourne up soon. Yeah, it's a blast. I guess you could compare it to, I want to say, Nation vs Zombies or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, we have day long events here. Depending on what it is, you have day long events too. It's really cool. I like the day longs.
Yeah, but it's pretty unique in Australia because it's unique in Australia. So it's a lot of fun, and I've had a great time. I've been to every single event so far since they first did it. The first one, they started with 80 people, and there was the tickets went on sale officially at 8 p.m. and I arrived at 5:30 in the morning, and there was already a queue for the tickets. And as I said, the most recent big one in Sydney was 850 people, so it's just grown phenomenally.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so big HVC event in Australia.
yeah. Currently I'm trying to play on screen here, but it's not.
Frame rate though.
Yeah, it's stuttering. I had actually transcoded this to a lower bitrate so it would play back nicer. I don't know what's going on. Hang on. Maybe I can. 1 second. That might help. Think? Not really. But anyway, so this is just footage from our gun cams, which we had mounted on gimbals, brushless gimbals, so that we get like kind of a smoother look, and also then wherever we point our blasters, the cameras point. And yeah, hopefully I want to produce a multi-part series out of this of just our experience. And so this was Outbreak, Z-Town Outbreak, and this was my first like large HVZ with this many people. We have done with Melbourne, Humans versus Zombies Melbourne. I've done the camp out for that, and I think we had 50 people, and we'd booked out an entire caravan park, and that kind of played like I guess you would, if comparing it to video games, played more like DayZ, where it's a running simulator, not many people. But, yeah.
So in terms of what you guys play, is there a breakup between, like, NIC style, just having a shoot at other people, and HVZ, or is one more popular than the other? What's your sort of experiences and opinions on HVZ?
Well, I guess I'll start since that's the order. But
Yeah.
HVZ and NIC are like very, very, very segregated from what I understand. NIC is much more, okay, everybody, let's get together, show off some of our homemades. We do that. The energy level between the two is so varied. A lot of HVZ really is primarily stock or nearly stock stuff. The most recent one I went to, I used like a modified Strife, but that's something I would never use in like an NIC game. So they're very, very different. A lot of the times they're organized by like the school, and it is all day. You have a bunch of different environments, whereas in NIC you just play in like a park or something. So the whole game type and environment is very different than that.
Right. And what about you, Tom? Because I know you do a lot of LARP type events. How does that fit in with the whole thing?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, over here, currently the biggest games are LARP in terms of total numbers of players, where you get Nerf. But we've got a growing indoor scene because it's winter here and you can't really go out. Well, it's been winter. There's a couple of new games sprung up. We've got Grim Up Nerf, the northern group based around Leeds and Bradford. They're in Tong. They've just had a game today, actually.
Oh, nice.
And they are in a big church. They're a bit like Recon in the States, the Reynolds Corner Nerfers, where they're in a big church building. I've got an indoor group down here. There's a couple of other ones around as well. We had Davidoff, who is one of the LARP guys. He had a big event in London in the park the other week. But our events, that sort of size, you're normally looking at about 20 to 30 players on a good day, because we're a really small scattered scene, so it's quite hard to get big numbers of people for things.
Right.
So those really big HVZs, we don't tend to get them here. There are some campus ones. I know there are several campus societies around the country that play HVZ, the traditional kind of student-based, 5-day HVZ, Groucho HVZ. They play Groucho HVZ. So we've got a lot of those, and the events that Britnerf has run have generally been day games. We've had some day game HVZ that the guys at BSUK put on Briswar, and that was 3 years ago now. So yeah, we've only had a few. There probably are out there. It's just that the crossover between the kind of Nerf scene and the HVZ scene either isn't very big, or there are a lot of players, I think, but there's not very many kind of organised national. We don't get those big 500-player games really anywhere.
Right. Well, it's a little bit of a shame, but I guess that's how it is.
When we play, we've kind of developed our own thing now with a lot of our indoor stuff. We've got some extremely fast, extremely brutal rule sets that were developed by the guys at Buzan in Bristol, and that's the Bristol University Zombie Apocalypse Network. And Busan HVZ plays very different from Goucher, and that we discovered a lot of our places you couldn't do these big 5-6 day games. It just doesn't work.
So what are
and
some
so
of the differences?
Well, if you're playing Busan HVZ, Infection is based around normally a small playing space, so it's not usually a very large playing space. You're talking about a kind of school gymnasium size playing space.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so not big. And then zombies usually have things like a 5-second stun timer and then 5 seconds immunity. So you've got an enclosed play space.
Okay.
It's more like being trapped in a bunker if you're talking kind of quasi-military experience. It's like being trapped in a bunker with a bunch of zombies trying to eat you. Some can be embedded in the human population. You can play it with zombies out in the open already, or you can play it with people who are, infected, and they can turn at any time on their comrades by eating them.
Interesting.
And you can have specials and.
Our sort of the monthly games that we play down here sound like a sort of average point between the long game and that. We have a maybe a football or soccer field sized area of grass in a park, and we use a 25-second stun timer with no original zombies. So that definitely sounds like an even more intense version of that, which I could just imagine when that gets to the last 2 or 3 people would get quite intense.
That's manic. Yeah, it's really good fun playing that. If you want to play really really fast, very very brutal HVZ, that is the way to play it. You talk about weapon handling and tactical gear, and that's pretty much BSUK came out of that.
Gotcha.
I'm sure the guys would be the first to admit to you that they started making tactical gear because they were in this intense situation at Busan where there was just stuff going off everywhere, and this is back when we were pre-elite and pre-Flywheel. So you try playing that with some of that. Yeah, you try playing that with a Maverick, and you start needing slings and holsters because you have to carry 5 end strike blasters to make up for how sucky they are compared to what we've got now. And that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. So we've sort of, our scene has developed, our Nerf scene has probably developed more out of that and LARP than anything else.
And so how does the LARP aspect fit into it? Because that's something I'm quite curious about. There's basically there's one Nerf LARP here called After the Fall that have run one game, and I wasn't there for it, but I don't think it was very fleshed out. So I was sort of interested how that sort of sits in, because I've seen.
Well, there've been a number of those groups. There are so many good LARPs in this country. It's mostly based around the southeast and around the urban centres. We don't have much. Like if you live in the boonies, you're in trouble here. There's nothing. There's kind of big black holes where there's no LARP. And there's some good LARPs run all over the place. And I can't really name all of them. Big Damn Hero springs to mind. That has been very successful. And Green Cloaks has become probably one of the biggest Nerf LARPs in the UK. They get over 100 players on a good weekend now.
Does that run weekendly?
It runs not every weekend. They run 4 events per year. They often coincide with the bank holiday weekends.
Gotcha.
They're having their first event is on the 23rd of April, I think. It's next weekend is the first event of the season, and then they also have there's a number of regiments in Green Cloaks. If you're playing the kind of human element of it, there are a number of regiments in the Green Cloaks, and some of those regiments, like Delmont and some of the others, run their own sanctioned events as well. So you go in character to those. So there's a kind of there are probably a total of 8 a year max, and it seems to be about 6 the last 2 years. I've not played that system, so I can't comment on gameplay in that system. But gear-wise, I've built a lot of gear for that system, and because it allows for full melee, obviously being LARP, then you've kind of got a shield wall normally, and you've got some kind of heavy melee fighters in the middle, and guys with like 6-foot-long swords and hammers and all that kind of stuff, and shields, and then you've got your kind of skirmishing roles, and those tend to be where the Nerf or Rivals is now creeping into that system.
So it's a bit off topic, but at our LARP that we sometimes attend, it's called Swordcraft, and they, it's a medieval themed thing and whatever. But I take a gun to a knife fight, so I like using these. They shoot basically giant rubber band guns with exercise bands. So
either band guns or band wands if you're a magic user.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. It's a good idea.
So I can imagine then, segueing smoothly into our next topic, that at this Buzan thing, I'm sure Flywheel Blasters have absolutely taken that by storm.
Well, I have no idea what Busan is doing at the moment because again, another event that was a closed university society, so it's quite difficult for non-university people to go to. I can remember certainly talking to the guys that run that and that were involved in that. That the kind of the Flywheel Blasters were quite for indoor stuff. Every indoor game I've run, it is flywheels do make a big difference. Now, it's much easier to run if you're running indoor HVZ with a flywheel and you've got a reasonable rig or you've got proficiency with mag swaps and loading on the fly, then you're going to wreck all day.
Yeah. The scene here has definitely transitioned. Before I came down to Melbourne, I was in Sydney, and the Sydney Nerf Wars scene, it was very different because of the field that we played on. There was sort of a big open area in the middle of this park, which had like hills on each side and then trees.
I've seen some pictures of it. It looked like a really interesting place to play.
Fantastic. Honestly, it's still one of my favorite arenas to play on because you had this sort of breakup between the engagements. And anyway, the net result is the games were faster. So we've seen a sort of transition down in Melbourne now to, away from brass breech long shots and 4Bs and, all that, to everyone running around with a strife or a rapid strike, just shooting as many darts as they physically possibly can.
That's because I think they can shoot just far enough and have just enough accuracy, and if you can just throw enough darts down range, then they're effective. Yeah, and and that's prompted us to buy in more darts. So I think we always usually take to a war 10,000 darts.
Gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. It gets pretty
That's
insane
amazing.
sometimes.
I
see your videos.
It's divided up
Aero.
amongst people, I hope.
yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first started back in Townsville in North Queensland, the guy who was starting the group decided, I think everyone trying to bring their darts and then everyone having to write their name on darts was just gonna be silly. So we had done we did a dart hire system, and this was at the time before
Yeah.
2012, I think. This is kind of before the whole China market exploded, where you could find a lot of cheap
Pre-Koosh.
darts. Yeah,
Yeah,
pre-Koosh.
exactly. Well, FEJs
PK.
nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pre-FEJs and everything.
As
So
opposed to the Steffens that I guess you would be using AeroMech, right? With all the homemades.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Right, yeah, for the NIC, that's the popular thing to go with. No way in HVZ. They would
Hold on,
never
I'm gonna be
allow
right
that in
back.
HVZ.
yeah. Yeah, so then what happened, I moved down to Melbourne, and the first game I did at Melbourne Nerf Wars was the last game they actually did with, bring your own darts, and so what's my words, we had to dart sort. That was a new experience for me, where we're just sitting there for 5 minutes, everyone with their own little bucket of trying to sort out everyone's darts. And the guys were already then talking about getting a bunch of batch ordering darts. And so there was one supplier in Brisbane called Informer, and he provided foam and tips, but you had to glue them all together yourself, and so
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh
screw
my
that.
god.
I mean,
Those Informer darts looked really nice, though.
they
That's-
were nice.
they are fantastic.
That's
Don't
what
get me wrong.
Steffens are, though.
They're still probably the most accurate darts because they're heavy silicon tip, but just a hassle.
And
Gluing
then-
silicon to foam is a pain.
Then we started running low over time, and yeah. So we made the transition to FEJs. So yeah, I don't. What do you guys use?
In the context of HVZ?
Oh, in whatever. Like, I know a lot of the builds
Oh,
you
yeah,
do
well-
are homemade, so
Yeah. In homemade like NIC stuff, we almost always use slug style Steffens. So that's just foam with a metal washer as a weight, but that's covered by a felt pad. So at no point does metal ever come in contact with your skin. However, you say that to anybody that's doing it, and they're like, they freak out. Oh my god, metal! Ugh. And It's just so that would never be allowed at an HVZ event. But like the fact that you have to make every single dart, it makes you really appreciate your ammo. So like spamming like 20 shots in 2 seconds out of a strife, you would never do that with any kind of Stefan, because you have to literally sit there one by one and, like what you were saying, glue the tips onto each individual dart. There is a little bit of a transition now to use the China darts, from what I understand, in some circles. It's still very, very Stefans and slugs still kind of dominate in the NIC market, but for HVZ, almost everybody that I was with at the most recent game in Penn State was running like China or off-brand darts, just because they were so cheap.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
I guess.
But then
yeah.
even that, oh sorry, even then you kind of do run into problems though, like what you were saying with dart sorting, because there are so many varieties. You have the Koosh, you have FVJs, you have FVNs, you have so many different ones that some darts will not feed through some blasters, or if you're running like low on battery energy, you get jams because one might be like 52 caliber, but Nerf darts are like 48 caliber, something like that, and or like density of the foam. There's like 10 different reasons why I could do it, but especially at the end of the day with one of my strifes, I noticed my batteries were running low. I could not cycle anything other than the elite knockoffs or pure elites. Everything else
Gotcha.
was jamming, and I eventually had to switch to a retaliator.
Just not enough torque left on the low power of the battery.
Yeah, so even with that, the China darts, there's variation between them, even if you don't make them yourself.
Oh, we had a hilarious comeuppance one year where we bought a bunch of darts and they were 4 millimeters shorter than normal.
Yes,
And
I remember
so-
those.
Yeah.
The shorties, they were
God.
68, not 72 millimeter.
They're still on the
Yep.
market.
Yeah.
I've seen them. They're really strange looking. Just
Shut up.
'cause
Yeah,
there's they're that little short.
Yeah, what do they call them? The guys from Bay Area Nerf call them like China whites because they had some white ones like that. They were really short. I don't know
All
why
our
they.
ones were green, so
Yeah, they're not fun.
they were
I've seen them
annoying.
as red.
And yeah, anyone
Red or
anyone
pink.
using a flywheel blaster just got completely boned because the pushes weren't long enough.
Yeah.
Currently on screen we have some photos from the event that you went to recently, AeroMech. So do you want to tell us about that?
Which one?
Of course.
Your
This was, Penn State or Pennsylvania State Invitational. It was a whoops, sorry. Hang on. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. It was a 4.5 hour drive from where I am, but it was so worth it. So worth it. It was a one-day HVZ game. I went with some people that I actually met from NIC area, like Van James, like Kyle, aka Gears, DX, some really cool people. It was a day-long event from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We basically just never stopped running. And I learned just so much from it, like the fact that people had like pedometers on their phones. By the last mission, we had ranges from 11 to 17 miles, or about 20 to 25 kilometers. People ran the entire day. Yeah, it's crazy. And what are you drawing?
I'm just
And,
highlighting
yeah,
it. That's
this-
yous guys. Here, I just
Yeah.
want to bring attention to your majestic mane and beard in this particular photo.
It's tactical. It really just establishes dominance over.
You look like Instructor Zero.
Yeah,
What?
you gotta have a beard
Oh,
if you really want to actually shoot someone properly, right?
So majestic.
To be honest,
Is that
with you, I was
strife
going
that
for-
is the strife you're
Yeah,
holding?
that's the strifle. That's the strifle and the retaliator, because this is late in the day when my strife started to jam. So I was like, okay, this is the point where I'm trying to get my strife back into my backpack, but the zombies don't know that it's jamming, so I'm just holding it like gangster style and just trying to intimidate them.
You look intimidating.
You said, what was it, Instructor Zero? I was going more for like Metal Gear Solid Big Boss, to be honest with you.
Nice.
But I love that.
No,
Yeah.
that works. Instructors. He's
So we have
yeah.
some Milsim guys, and he's
Yeah.
one of those
Oh, okay.
silly, over-the-top, out-of-rifle, dynamic whatevers, and it's a bit fun to poke some fun.
Oh, okay. No,
Yeah.
this has taught me so much about just like the whole systems aspect of it, where that Strife, you can kind of see it there. It has a flashlight, it has an external battery, and it has a face camera on it, which I'm hoping to get all this footage of.
Yes.
So that's really cool. So, but all of that, like my shoulders and my back was hurting the next day just from lugging it around. It probably weighed about 3 pounds or like, I don't know, 2 kilograms, something like that. So like, it's not heavy, but the fact that you're carrying it around for literally like 9 hours and not putting it down, it's a strain on your body. Like the next
when
day,
you get
my back, my legs, everything.
You should ask Alex about the he called it Chimera. It was a blaster he made and took to one of the Z towns. It was 2 swarm fires, a rapid strike, and a strife that had all been integrated together with a big wolf skull on the front and painted red and gold.
If you can link that to me,
that's awesome.
I don't have a picture on hand, unfortunately.
If you can find it on Facebook or something.
Oh, I can try and hunt
I can bring
it down.
that up. But yeah.
So he ran that and he was like, super happy and proud and thought it was like the coolest thing. And then about 5 minutes into the game, he's had to carry this thing that apparently is like, over 5 kilos. It's like, 15, 20 pounds.
Roughly 12
he would have
pounds.
said. Well, no, he
It's
said it was about
2.2.
just under 10 kilos. Because, each one of those had their own lipo. And,
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
That seems excessive.
Well, that's what this taught me. It's like, I want to bring a Stampede and make some crazy like BAR Bren looking Stampede, because that would be awesome and intimidating. But the problem with that is, you have to hold it, and if you notice, everything I'm carrying is really short. Because we're in urban like kind of environments, if I had a barrel on that Strife, and I almost put one on before I went, that would have changed everything up so much. You're grouped so tightly that having any kind of barrel on there would slow you down so much and just knock into stuff. So if you wanted to have like an LMG kind of heavy kind of guy, that's great for the first mission or two, but then as soon as you start to run and numbers are down, you're just gonna slow everyone else down and get in the way, and you're gonna end up getting killed because you can't swing the thing fast enough.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I love the crazy, insane stuff, but it's not practical in this purpose.
Don't ever let Alex hear you say that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we just got it up. That's the
That's Chimera Mark II, which
the first
is
one caught on fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so it's a phoenix then.
Chimera?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unfortunately though, it's currently in a sarcophagus of a briefcase because he had a zombie tackle him and break it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing was held together with a few specifically placed screws and zip ties so that it would break down, and it broke down. Yeah. But that was an interesting sort of learning experience in itself, because through that there's a whole bunch of flywheel blasters, and that was around the time when everyone was starting to experiment with the different motors. So we were trying out the Shark motors, the AliExpress Ranson motors. That was an interesting time to be alive when people, I guess, hadn't really figured out it doesn't much matter how fast you spin these things. It's just friction.
Yeah. So, Ben, have you been to a HVZ recently or any recent events?
Unfortunately, I've only been doing this modding thing for about 1.5 years, 2 years, somewhere around there. I've been lurking way back since when Coops first started making videos, but I just started nerfing myself. And I live in Texas, and not a whole lot of people like to gather for this kind of stuff in Texas, or at least where I am. So I've never actually been to an HVZ event.
Okay.
Which kind of sucks.
Do they already have real guns down there, or what's the deal with that?
I would
Every
say
time you
something
turn around,
would
it's
be
a shotgun.
incredibly insensitive and racist, so I'm not going to.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Moving.
Please don't.
So, this
Moving on.
Stop me.
talking about all the flywheel R&D that happened early on in the day, trying to work out what motors, how to actually mod these things, that kind of leads us into our next major topic. Since we have three flywheel aficionados on the thing, um, I'm not sure where to start this topic because
First thing is, I have a confession, and that's that all of these years I've been entirely wrong, and that 180s are actually really cool. So I'm just gonna put it out there, be on record saying that, because
yeah.
I was wrong. I
So
played with them
How
last
could
night,
you?
and dear God.
so
Yeah,
last
I messed with my first one. They were XP 180s. I just got them in last week. They're very beautiful.
Yep.
oh wait,
Like,
I've already transferred the images. I can bring some up.
yeah, maybe put a picture on, but a little while back, Ben actually sent me the STL file for his flywheel cage that has a sort of twist on the motors. Now that's a
Can't.
whole nother kettle of fish where the spinning darts actually helps, and that's a whole
Well,
new
that's
other can
kind
of
of the
argument.
that's a topic.
Oh
So
boy.
currently
Yeah.
on screen we have an image um of Ben's canted flywheel cage that yeah, Ryan's printed out, and so last night we were actually filming this and testing out the 180 motors we also had just acquired.
Yeah, they were 3240s, so not XPs, but still, I was I was blown away by how quickly they revved up. I was
Talking about massive torque overkill on those. That's the beauty of the 180 is that it rips through inertia like a hot knife through butter. That's why they're good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just that instant acceleration. Like I said previously, you're looking at 130s are like the Cosworth four-pot of the motor world. You can rev them to the sky, and they can be turbocharged. They can produce huge RPMs, but they just don't have that massive monster immediate torque. And the 180 is the big block V8 of the modding world, and that's how Turuk described them to me when I first got my first pair. Was like, how do you like your proper big block? And they are kind of like that.
Witness! Hail the
Yeah,
V8!
I'm not really sure if it was just me being stupid, but you can't really tell on videos just how fast the rev time is compared to 130s. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
instant.
Yeah.
Snap is very
As
hard
soon
to
as you
measure
pull it.
too.
And I think the problem with 180s for me personally is I formed my opinion on them back when trust fires were the thing.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
I will admit one of my first mods I put truss fires in a strife and I sold it over the tab on stock motors. So around that time I was of the opinion that cutting into the shell of a blaster was, sacrilege, and getting a 180 to stick out the side just looked dumb, and powering 180s off truss fires just wrong.
I'm proud to say that I've never used truss fires. I started out with airsoft batteries, and those were
Oh yeah.
20C or whatever. So it was decent, but never
Well,
used.
I mean,
never used.
you're not going to redline those airsoft batteries unless you fully stall a pair of 180s and keep mashing the rev button. That's what people
Yeah.
forget. Your startup demands on a 3240, which is quite hot, is still going to be under 20 amps. That's that's the downside about those 180s is they are current fiends.
Oh
If you
yeah.
stall them, I've seen XP 180s will pull 60 amps. That is not
That's crazy.
may. That is
Holy
will.
mackerel.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 amps. I've blown a 60 amp MOSFET. I lent one of my. I don't know how many people have seen the Reaper that I made. That Reaper Rapid Strike. It was the first Hydrodip blaster I did. It had the full burst fire module in it. Which incidentally, there's a couple of people who trolled me on YouTube who I can get out there now. Who said, well, if you will use some breadboard piece of crap in your blaster, that's not a breadboard in there, guys. That's a full Arduino. It's a really small Arduino, and it's got a proper IR gate. It's all properly programmed. It's not something that was made out of cheese in my room and just hammered together. It's actually really nicely built, and that has 60 amp master switching MOSFET for the flywheel motors. And that MOSFET, the kids melted that MOSFET in a day.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Trying to fire it when it was stalled because we were outside, we were using old darts, all kinds of things. It was a game. I just left. All the kids played with it. Each person had a go with it during the game, and they blew my MOSFET to pieces inside of half an hour.
I'm not sure if you saw on the screen, but
Yeah,
I
I
did.
just saw
It's
that.
on like a top.
the
Yeah.
flywheel popped off, and it just span around like a blade. It was very
They're
funny.
fun.
One of the things that Ryan was saying last night, how fascinating the situation is that something
Oh
that
no.
someone from the other side of the world has designed, he then had it in his hands and was testing it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I love about 3D printing. I know you
Oh,
want
it's
to resin
insane.
cast Hawkeye, but just the fact that you had this idea, and then put that on digital paper, sent that 15,000 kilometers around the world, and then I squirted that out with my fabricating device and
Yeah.
was able to test and comment on your idea. It's just
Which
fantastic.
I did make another version because Ryan suggested that I put holes in the bottom so that you could fit the screwdrivers and pop them out so you're not damaging the thing there. And like I was kind of trying to avoid it because it was for a molding aspect. It's a little bit harder to do than just slap holes on there. But I do think I found a way to fit them on there. So
Excellent. Excellent.
You're saying like from a molding aspect, you don't want to have holes through your mold because then your
um
negative has to go through the item then, or
yeah, the negative I want to minimize how I'm where I'm putting the holes and how far apart they are from one another. Right now, in that version, all of the holes are on top of that flywheel post thing. But if I put holes at the bottom, that kind of introduces a weird thing for the silicone where now I have to make
Yeah,
sure both of those
yeah.
are in line with one another perfectly, or something's gonna mess up. And immediately that's not going to pose any problem, but over time, over years, or not really years, but the more you cast out of a mold, the more it slightly deforms,
Mm-hmm.
and it ever so slightly will start to build up, and then all of a sudden you won't have a usable mold anymore.
Yeah, and then you've got to recast the mold.
Yeah, molds really hate tongues, don't they? They hate like anything that sticks in from the edge of the mold in a square
Yeah.
shape, particularly. They really hate those tongues, don't they? I remember that from my molding days of casting lead miniatures. That's the bits that wear out fastest.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the mold for the strife parts is going to die relatively soon because the barrel goes all the way up there, and I have
Yeah.
to. It actually comes bigger on the other side, and I have to kind of suction it off,
Yeah, you
and
gotta
it kills me
pull
every
that
time I
out.
pull it.
Yeah, right, because you've got that sort of arch, well, circle, like complete circle
Yeah.
that's perpendicular to the direction that you'd want to be pulling it apart.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. But that's the reason why that hole on the top is there for the flywheel cage, where because you're putting brass in there anyway, but
Yeah,
I have to separate the halves, and that makes it a lot easier.
gotcha.
yeah. We're also saying that basically once we get this up and running, and then we didn't have a piece of brass on us last night to actually properly set this up. But might be an idea to do a full testing thing of different canter angles and just like print out a bunch
Yeah,
of them and just do a bunch of science, like
I
lots of
was actually
Well,
thinking about that.
mathematically, your actual revolutions is the key thing in terms
I was
of
just about to
spinning.
say,
Yeah, absolutely. I know we had a brief discussion about this, and I had a chat with my brother-in-law, who's a proper engineer and unlike me, and he, he was saying that his feeling was that you kind of, I know you've done a bit of calculations and some simulation, but he agreed with you, Ryan, about there being a critical level of spin, and
yeah,
the same as there is in a bullet, that you have to get enough turns in the rifling within the barrel to get the right level of spin to make any difference.
exactly. And one of the things I was going to say is that because that offset is basically adding a tangential velocity, the RPM of your motor is actually going to become significant because the higher the RPM, the higher that tangential velocity and the more spin you get.
Absolutely. And
So
I,
if
I
you
would argue
have,
that you're looking really to get that right at needing a proper ESC setup and a way of measuring the RPM so you can precisely tune that.
well, I mean, there's two factors. You could either do that or just try and if we could figure out exactly what spin you need for what dart, then you
Yeah.
could make potentially one with a 3-degree angle, a 10-degree angle, and just say if you use these motors, use this one.
Yeah, but then with
Well,
the
that's what's-
variations with... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, well, that's what's great about the 3D printing. You can just print as many of these as you want at varying angles. At the same time, though, it's a really cool concept to get these darts spinning, but I actually want to see it out in the field. If you go outside where there is that little bit of wind, or even if you were able to make some kind of artificial, I want to say wind tunnel, but something where there's like a perpendicular wind
this
flow.
is
Set up
where-
a
against the
firing
darts.
range and a fan
The
going
technical
across
term
it.
you were looking for is a perturbation.
Yeah, but then
Ooh,
this is
fancy.
where
Yeah.
this is where the exterior ballistics for Nerf darts versus solid projectiles breaks down a little bit because
Exactly.
Yeah.
the way a Nerf dart works is extremely different to a solid projectile.
Right.
And as I'm sure you guys are all engineers, you know this. But the average Nerfer
Yeah.
in the street, Durance
But
a
bullets spin.
Yeah,
Yo,
that's
we're
right.
rifling our Nerf bullets.
They look like
That's
guns.
right, exactly, and that is what you're dealing with. What we have to do if you're going to do this is you have to condense it in such a way that the average guy in the street or average Nerfer in the street can see immediately the effect that you're talking about. And also, I am still totally unconvinced that that spinning
the
will
easy
make
way
enough difference.
I do this is I say to people who say rifle darts could help is grab a Nerf dart, and if you've got one lying around, do it, because it's kind of makes it super obvious. If you get a Nerf dart and you just throw it up and try and spin it with your fingers, and anyone who's watching the stream, if they want to do that as well,
Or spin it and drop it
Totally
Yeah.
doing
on
it.
the floor.
twist it between your fingers as you spin it, and you'll see exactly what happens is that the tail will kick out because the moments of inertia are just completely different.
And
to
you
a
have to
bullet.
spin it at the head. You have to spin it at the
Exactly.
head if you're going to do that, because the way the center of mass is set up on a Nerf dart, exterior ballistics in Nerf is 99% center of mass versus center of pressure. That's pretty
Exactly.
much all you need to know about exterior ballistics in Nerf. The mass, I have to say, a great debt is owed to B. Trettle, who is he's an American guy, and I can't remember his first name.
Yes. He
But
did
if
the,
you've not read B.
Yep.
Trettle...
Is it Doom? Is it Doom?
It was Doom,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
I
was
think it was
Doom,
Doom on
yeah.
Nerf Haven, but he publishes now, and he had his own blog
On
for ages.
Britnell.
And he is he's a PhD.
He's a
I think
wonderful
he's doing his
physicist.
PhD.
Yeah.
Yes, he is, and he did a lot of work on the exterior ballistics of Nerf, generally just for his own amusement. And a lot of his stuff, if you can follow the maths, which I can't, I have to go and filter it through an engineer and a lecturer, and then I can get a kind of it's like a filtration system from smart to stupid at the bottom. And so I put it in smart at the top, and it comes out stupid for me, where I can kind of just see what's going on.
Yeah, so
and
his posts and stuff are actually pretty motivational for me
brilliant.
when I was starting to get into it, because it was like, wow, these things aren't just a kid's toy. You can actually do a lot of maths and interesting sort of science on this.
It. That's why I love it, because it gets you into manufacturing. It
Yeah,
gets you into
for sure.
electricity. It gets you into mechanics. You can take something apart for like $20. It's great. I'm sorry. That's my
Yeah.
little-
There's so many.
No, for
there's,
sure.
there's such a range of things that you can do with Nerf. If you just want to leave it stock and just plink foam around the house, that's perfectly fine. Or you can have engineers scratch their heads at what's going on.
Or you
Well,
can,
I love
or
that.
you
Yeah,
can,
my
or you can
brother-in-law
do
or you can
both.
blow holes in your drywall, which is what I like
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
had a
Who
fun
doesn't?
experience moving out of the last place with drywall. I had a HVA-powered blaster, and a couple of darts missed the targets, and an FVJ going at 350 FPS does things to plaster that we had to repair before we moved out.
I can beat that. When a friend of mine moved out of a student house. One night he had had a few too many light ales, and he decided he couldn't be bothered to open his door. So he used a very nasty, cheap Morningstar mace that he had, a metal mace, to smash a hole in the drywall because he couldn't find his key. And so he walked in through the drywall and went to bed with his mace. And then he woke up in the morning and realised he'd demolished his own wall with a mace. That was an interesting repair job. In fact, that was the first piece of proper drywall I ever did.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Jono from Nottingham, if you're listening, you are a legend.
My
What
dad
a
always
what a
used to make a joke
stereotypical
that,
name
the
for that kind
sledgehammer-
of story.
Yeah, the
Jono.
sledgehammer and bolt cutter universal key, but the mace is the true universal key.
It is. Yeah, Morningstar for when you absolutely gotta get straight into that room. It does work on most things.
Nice.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Even, touching back on like the whole thoughts
how-
about manufacturing and that
Sorry.
kind of thing, like even what Hawkeye was just saying before, that he has to, whenever he designing the flywheel, he has to think about how the resin's going to flow in the cast and how the cast
Yeah.
has to open. So yeah, like there's so many different ways to look at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
Like there's
even
100 better ways to do this flywheel cage, but I had to think of other things, and
You're
I'm still
constrained.
sorting out some things. Yeah.
See, Hawkeye, I tend to subcontract jobs like that. If you have the talent to 3D model something like that, which I don't, I can make it, but I can't 3D model it. If you have the talent to 3D model something like that, then I sub out the manufacturing. If you're talking about short runs, you just go to a CNC shop and just say, look, how much for one of these? And do it in your downtime, and you can normally find a nice machinist who needs beer money, and get him to make it in your lunch hour.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking
know.
of things like that, the flywheel cage, I don't know who has seen the brushless rapid strike that was just someone put up the other day on Reddit.
Oh, is that
photo
the
of
white
that?
one?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that one was pretty. Before we get into that,
Oh, yeah.
speaking of brushless motors, this guy on Reddit contacted me about a brushless motor flywheel thing, and one of the mods actually mentioned me, and he was like, "Well, you should probably talk to him." And it felt bad because I had to turn him down, because like that's one of the things I like about 3D printing, is I'm not really great at figuring out the distance between something that's relative. So if it's off by a little bit, I just go back in the program and move it by, however much. And that, like, the one you're holding, I've printed 8 different versions of that.
Yeah,
So
If someone
It's-
can link me the Reddit thing for this
I'm
brushless,
looking for it right now.
yeah,
I'm looking for it right now.
cool.
Oh,
Is it actually called brushless, or what is
I'm
it?
not exactly
What's
sure.
It called?
I think the main thing was a burst fire about it. That
Burst-
was the cool part.
Burst rapid strike.
But that was
Yeah,
sort of
but
not
the-
really the point. The point was more that one of the things that came off that was having the Outrunner brushless motors as the flywheels.
Yeah, we already talked about that over here in the UK. We were talking about
And-
getting some custom outrunners. And
It's
it's a
white.
good idea.
So-
It's white and green and black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it that one? Okay, I'll send it to you right now.
The thing was, when I first got the Rapid Strike, I bought one off a friend at uni and took it into the UAV lab that I was with. And the lab supervisor looked at it and he's like, "Oh, it's 2 flywheels. Why don't you use 2 brushless Outrunner motors?"
Yeah.
And this was like 2 days after it being released in Australia. And I was like, "Oh no, that's stupid. We use these RM2s and we overvolt them and that's the greatest thing on earth." And he's like, "Nah, but why don't you just use brushless motors?"
See, the downside about brushless is that you need to have the proper controllers for it. You can't,
Yeah.
and you need to have a decent controller. You can't just get like a $5 one that does 5 amps because it's just at it. And then you've got great torque. I think the real clever thing about brushless is that you can get the software to do what we currently do with hardware. So your controller, you can have a brushless motor that can rev to however high you want, and you can set the sweet spot using the software, which is...
You get motor braking for free.
That's right, and that makes total sense to me, that instead of having to dig around for motors that suit a very narrow band that works in flywheelers, you just do the software, because you can change code, and anybody anywhere in the world can download the code onto their motor controller, and they can change the code. So if you find out something, or if you sell someone a set of flywheels, you can sell them a code to go with it.
I think that's what's holding a lot of the people back, a little bit of electronics, because like if you stare at a rapid strike or a stampede long enough, you say, oh, this lever pulls this spring, hits this, but the electronics of it is largely, like you were saying before, kind of a black box to a lot of people.
God,
if you could make
fire
it,
control is a clusterfuck.
if you could make it, for what, the rapid strike?
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, that's
it's
where
terrible. I hate
we've
it.
got to give a shout out to Dean from Blaster Tech, because the way he's done those pre-made looms for Strifes and Rapid Strikes has made high-level Flywheel modding much more accessible to people who don't solder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and whether you agree or disagree with how he sells them and what he sells them for, which I think that it's one of those skills, you've got a simple choice. If either you learn to do it and you work your way up the chain, you know, you start with your Strife and a few IMRs if that's what you want to do, and you work your way up the chain to rewiring your first Rapid Strike and then doing further mods to that Rapid Strike. If you don't want to do that, then you're going to have to pay somebody to shortcut that skill.
Exactly. So
I think he prices them fairly.
Yeah,
I think so too.
We've done the same comparison because we look at at the LARP scene here in Melbourne, and Swordcraft regularly gets like a minimum of 200 people every Friday night, up to
400.
Yeah, up to 400 people doing battle, beating the absolute shit out of each other, wearing hundreds of dollars worth of armor, and so like if everyone had to make their own stuff, if they couldn't buy it. The scene wouldn't be that big because a lot of the time people work full time, so they don't have the free time to spend. But because they work, they do have the surplus income to invest, and so that's kind of some of the stuff that we're looking into ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly found that all of my commissions, when I had to spend an entire year paying for my workshop out of my Nerf commissions. That's not an easy thing to pay the rent. I've got 1,200 square feet of prime shed, and pay for that out of Nerf was quite difficult. Yeah, you can. You have to live in the shed. It's kind of cold and there's a few rats, but
I have a sleeping bag.
And you have to share it with all the cars and some dismantled motorcycles.
They'll keep you company.
Yeah, they're quite. You can work on the cars for rent. I'm quite happy. That's me down to the ground. But I found that there was a lot of those LARP players. They only play 4 or 5 times big events a year, and like you say, they work hard to ensure that they've got nice gear, and they don't mind spending money with you if it means that they've got something that keeps their character alive and is cool and looks amazing and is fun to play with. They're looking for a different thing to nerfers generally. You know,
I think everyone's looking for quality and longevity. So
yeah. I mean, nerfers are prepared to tinker a bit, and sometimes people will buy a commission from you, get them through the door where they'll want all the hard work done, and then they'll go crazy on it with accessories or dress-up kits or whatever their bag is. Paint. I made a rapid pistol for somebody that had to be completely modular, so the whole loom was pluggable, and so he took it all out, and then he painted it, and he put it all back in.
Nice.
Because he wanted to not do the wiring part, but he wanted to do the paint part, and I did all the bodywork chopped and shut for the rapid pistol kit, and then he wanted to do the finishing.
Makes sense.
Speaking of the way you wire things,
that's cool.
I've totally taken that idea from you where you put a Dean's connector on all of your motor cages. I love that.
It's so much easier. It's so much easier
So
that way.
much easier.
I think that was something that a couple of
Disappointed
people
in your
came up
use
with
of
at
Dean's.
once. Well, Dean's is quite good because it fits in the space. You try getting an XC60 in the front of the maglock on a Rapid Strike, it just doesn't fit, especially with 16 AWG. Nah, Dean's will take it.
Is it just kind of a quick connect?
Yeah.
It's
just a
used
smaller
for
version
batteries,
of an
but if you use
XT60.
it for anything really, it's just
You
breaking
can use
the
banana
connection.
plugs.
Okay.
I tend not to use banana plugs because I have to think like somebody who is as thick as me. So it means that if you can't plug it in wrong, then it's all fine.
I don't know if I'm sure
Yeah.
someone has come up to a war where they've soldered the battery connector on wrong and the flywheels are spitting the darts back into the mag.
Didn't you have a video of that?
Oh yeah.
I have to put my hand up, actually, to that one. I sent a customer a blaster like that, where I had the wires. I'd got everything right, except on the motor block, I had them round the wrong way. And I confused myself. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when I finished that blaster. And I had confused myself. Fortunately, I've got to give a big shout out to Kev, a.k.a. UK Nerf War, because he's my agent. And luckily, this guy was local to him. And he was able to spot my deliberate mistake. And he went inside the blaster, he opened it up quickly, and he swapped it round. So I got away with it. So whoever that was, I apologise for that. That's what happens when you work late at night.
On the Strife, I just put the Dean's connector to the right of the magazine because it indents there. There's plenty of room there.
Yes, I've also put it on top of the battery compartment in the Strife. That's another good place where, unless you've had to cut a really big hole there, if you're using one of the newer lipos, I've got really into graphene and LIHV lately. I don't know if anyone's noticed that on
Dude.
some of my post count lately. Those graphene lipos, the 950,
Those graphene batteries,
just mad.
they're crazy. I just got some 2S1s for my XP180s. They're beautiful.
What
Were
sort of
they as
discharge
good as
rates
you
did they
expected
get?
them to be? Oh man,
65C burst of 130.
Define how is graphene
Nice.
integrated
They've-
into this?
they've got them in the polymer of the pouch cell. So what it does is it basically makes the lipo. It means you can have a cheap, crappy pouch cell with the same durability as a hand-built A. You know the A-spec hard case lipos, the
I
ones
think.
that all the RC racers use. Basically, if you want primo lipo, you buy A-spec hard case, and they do 60 amps out the box. They
Like
tend
60,
to be
$70.
Yeah, some of them do 120C at 5,000 mAh, so massive
Crazy.
capacities. Yeah, but they cost, like you say, $60 to $100. But if you're racing anything seriously, you need that level of pack power. So if you're talking about what the graphene lipos do, is they enable you to have hard case performance in a smaller soft case pouch cell. So
And the HVs as well are just bonkers.
yes,
You know, when
because you
Hobbykin
also
came
get-
out, I looked up their range, and they were offering a 5200 milliamp battery with a 130 burst, which works
Yes.
out as something like a 700 amp discharge.
Yes.
You know, it's like you could friggin' spot weld with that thing.
Yes, you could. And the beauty of those as well is that both those types are more robust. So if you're a little bit paranoid and you're one of these people that thinks your lipo is going to blow your head off,
That's what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
they are a little bit more robust. You can't throw them around like a brickbat, and you've got to treat them with respect. But they're more robust, and also you can get their smaller sizes, which is really, really good. And if you're a Rhino player, those LIHVs, you can charge them on a conventional charger to 4.2 volts peak per cell. And then if you have an LIHV capable charger, the new Turnigy ones,
3.5, isn't it? 0.35.
yeah,
Yeah.
it'll go higher. It'll go higher on an LIHV. You can peak charge to 4.4 volts per cell, so you've got an extra bump on the top of the voltage. So you'll get a bit more free RPM, and you'll also get a minimum of 60C constant.
Which is so ridiculously overkill that it's fantastic.
Yes,
Before-
and the beauty of that is it brings the Rhino up nearly to the snap level of a 180. Because what's choking your Rhino down is getting over that inertia hump. It's not big enough to have naturally the torque to overcome the inertia of the flywheels, especially under load of a dart going in. So if you want snapfire where you just squeeze both triggers together, those graphenes
You
and
squeeze
those
the one
LHVs.
trigger. You have two micro switches on the one trigger.
Yeah, that was
No.
an idea if you're going to do burst fire. Brushless. Is you
Yeah.
have it set up so that you've just got one trigger and the brushless spin up, quarter of a second or a tenth of a second before the
So you'd
pusher.
have a delay almost programmed. in.
Exactly. Yeah, you just have
So
a sleep.
you would never jam again, basically.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Before we get
that's
too far away,
programmed
before we
in-
get too far away from lipos, that's what I was going to say when I was talking about airsoft batteries.
Yeah.
I was absolutely paranoid about lipos because everyone was saying if you do something wrong, they'll blow up, and that's what was freaking me out. It's really
yeah.
not that hard as long as you respect them. If that's what's holding you back, just respect the battery. Realize that it's not something that you can just plug into the wall and do whatever with. You have to pay attention, but it's
So-
most likely not going to explode on you.
Last night we had a little bit of a scare because my big old 10 amp hour 3S because after we moved house and so it was in storage and that we wanted to use it last night. It's like, oh, we'll do a voltage test, see how much charge it's got left, and
9.2 volts.
yeah, and
Oh, that's not good.
and so the charger was saying too low voltage cannot charge with the actual controlled charging the actual balancer. So Ryan just put it on to just force a manual charge.
Yeah, I just plugged the connectors in, not the actual balance. So it did a non-balanced
Yeah,
charge. I did it at 1 amp, which for a 10 amp hour battery is
That's
fine.
nothing.
Yeah.
You're hardly tickling it.
Exactly. Did that for a bit, and then when it got the voltage high enough, I put it onto the proper balance.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, it's now fine. It's
No
good.
explosions.
Yes, but yeah.
And we see what people do wrong with situations like that is that if they don't use their brain, they will then try and plug that into a blast. They won't check the voltages of their packs before they go out or before they, you do have to get a bit of discipline in that you can't just pick it up and go. You have to test first to check that you've got enough voltage. And at the end of the game, when you get home, you must always, first of all, take the plugs out. When you stop playing, plugs out. If you have a kill switch out, whatever it is. That's where fusing comes in, which I know is a topic that most people are not aware of. And as the James May of Nerf, it's my duty to talk about these things. I didn't coin that. Somebody else coined that, so I can't take any credit. I don't know who that was, but whoever it was, you're quite funny. So yeah, the fusing comes in because obviously if you have an inline fuse, you can take your fuse out and then your blaster is safe even if you can't be asked to go and pull the LiPo out.
Interesting. I sort of thought about the
That's a
idea
very
of using
cool
a
idea.
fuse for.
I want to put a fuse into mine, but I need to figure out what's going on with it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, what I've got is that started when that Reaper
Use a
MOSFET got blown
breaker
up.
instead of a fuse.
Well, the problem with breakers, though, Ryan, is I looked at resettable breakers. I looked at a whole different. There's some very fast reacting, very useful resettable breakers. The downside about resettable breakers, first of all, they encourage stupid people to push them in and make it go again, or keep their thumb on the breaker whilst engaging the red button,
but
and
nothing
things like
bad
that.
has ever happened from doing that.
Yeah, but if you've got electronics on board, like burst modules, then bad things can happen because you can fry the switching, whatever it is you're using for switching, you can kill it very quickly doing that.
And your blaster catches fire, and your arm catches fire, and
Yeah,
everybody's rolling
everybody-
around.
It's
Exactly.
fine, just hold the breaker in.
Yeah, so lots of people hold the breakers in. I have looked at them. The problem is that we have a wildly ranging current load, depending on what kind of things are going on. It's very, very hard to get a breaker that protects enough, doesn't trip every 5 seconds. That's the
Yeah, I was
problem.
going to say, because you don't
Yeah.
want it to jump just on the huge
That's
inrush
right.
current.
That's right. And so you end up with a breaker that's too big. Whereas with a fuse, because fuses have a delayed reaction to current because they're slightly crap, that's why we use them.
Yeah.
If you've got like a
That makes
traditional
sense.
fuse, the auto blade fuse or a glass fuse, you've got a bit of delay. And so that means that you can avoid inrush currents and still get protection.
Yeah.
Always use
So the
protection.
only downside is that now you should probably have an extra fuse like taped to the back of
That's
the
right,
blaster.
you have to carry it. For an HVZ gun, I would probably not bother with fuse protection. For an HVZ gun, I would just massively overspec it. It doesn't matter then. If you've got most motors, you're fine if you've got 16 AWG wire. People go on about, why do you use stall current to specify wiring, motor, and current?
It's
wiring
because you
and-
have to size it for when the flywheel
That's right.
is jammed.
Stalls.
Because
Precisely.
you don't want your wire to fail. You want
Precisely.
everything to break before your wire.
Yeah. Because if you burn out,
But
if you've got
18
electronics
gauge
involved-
is overkill.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that 22 gauge, preferably PVC insulated, preferably from Hasbro, preferably copper, is the way forward. I mean, solid is even better.
You gotta twist it together. Don't solder.
I should
Put them
show you
together.
a picture of a JST plug that I tried to use for stall testing rhinos. I needed to do a thing with a JST, and it just straight up melted all of the insulation off that. And
Yeah.
I
That
was
doesn't
shocked
surprise
and
me at
taken
all.
aback because I didn't expect it to be that bad. But it just shat itself.
That's
Crazy.
and like not even from the electrical side, but from like the mechanical side in like fluid mechanics and stuff. A lot of the stuff is non-linear relationships. It's not just go the next 1 or 2 sizes up in the wire gauge and you'll be fine. There's a lot of
That's
stuff
right.
that just people don't know. So like always over engineer it if you're unsure. And if you really are unsure, do another hour of research before you even buy anything.
Right.
So like
Yeah, for sure.
I will admit a lot of times I don't know what I'm doing. It requires research, talking to people, looking at the forums, and that's
Absolutely.
why I like Nerf Haven for that reason.
Yeah.
And on a
Now you see,
completely
I've
other
got to
topic,
fess
that's-
up.
Sorry.
Go on, Ryan.
I was just going to say very quickly on a complete another topic. That's why I'm really reluctant to do any videos on HPA stuff because that is a way that you can kill yourself
Yeah.
really easily.
Yeah, for sure, man.
You
That's not
have-
good stuff to mess with.
you have an aeronautical engineering background, right?
Yeah.
So like you know what you're talking about. You know that air is a destructive and a force with energy. Basically, it's that's why I just don't like compressed air. That's why at a lot of Northeast American Nerf wars we don't even allow homemade air blasters because like people take PVC pipe and yeah, you can pressurize it, but it's rated for water pressure. It's not there's
Well,
a whole
not that
other
it's
aspect
okay. I'm
of
going to
this.
jump in there. It's not that it's rated for
Go
water
ahead, go
pressure.
ahead, go
It's
ahead.
just that water pressure is safe if it breaks.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not going to
Yeah.
expand.
Yeah.
You have a
No.
relatively the volume always stays the
The
same.
It just
compressibility
leaks.
is,
Yeah.
is,
And
You
it
just
can't
leaks.
store
compressibility,
energy
isn't it?
in compressed water.
No,
Right.
Because it's
Whereas
one,
air
it's,
is compressible and water essentially
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah.
its
Essentially,
volumetric
isn't.
compressibility of water is virtually zip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, water's incompressible. If you take like a
Yeah,
glass
that's
of
right.
air and you put it down into the ocean, it's gonna be the size of a pea. It's gonna be really small.
Yeah.
But if you take
Yeah.
that same cup and fill it with water and bring it to the surface, it's gonna be the exact same amount of water.
So that is
I
a
thought you
very,
were gonna
very
say-
example. Well done.
Yeah.
Actually,
I was going to say
so
take
I
a
used
glass
to,
of water down to the bottom of the ocean like you'd never be able to tell.
Well, and also also
No,
liquids.
no. I'll flip that on the head, right?
Which is
So
how fish can survive that low.
I do scuba diving, which is quite a fun hobby.
Look
It's
at you.
quite technical.
Not in
but
Australia where everything wants to kill you.
Yeah, you deliberately go into the water with all the sharks and the box jellyfish. It's great fun.
Yeah, that's just
And
mad.
the blue ring octopus.
Yeah,
Or
no,
I suppose
they're
it's no
fine.
different.
I'm dead.
Yeah, it's
They're
no
fine.
different to being on land though, where all
I've
the
hugged a
wildlife wants
shark.
to kill you.
It was fun.
Sharks are fine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't mind
Oh.
sharks.
Anyway, so one of the things that I was, shown is you take a water bottle down, and then you just use your reg and fill it up with air on the bottom and let go. And as it just goes up, it just fills up, and then boom, it'll just explode. Because
because
that
the
pressure
is-
is
the pressure is
slowly
dropping.
released as it rises up through the water.
That's weird.
Oh, that's so cool though.
Yeah,
That's
It is.
I
terrifying.
love it.
yeah. It's quite interesting
What it
as
could
well
do
with
to you.
underwater recovery of stuff. They'll have these big bags that you just squirt a little bit of air into, and as it starts to lift off, it just keeps inflating and inflating and inflating and inflating as the pressure releases.
I would like to say that Tom has the patience of a rock when it comes to the Nerf Reddit forum
Oh yeah.
because
I
he
don't.
replies to every single person. I can't do that. Like, how many times has he posted that stupid dart link thing?
Yeah, hey, whoever gilded me for that was extremely funny. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. That made me laugh. Because I put
sorry,
that,
which
I have
of
put that up.
this?
I posted the obligatory bulk dart links every day. There are like 3 or 4 posts
Oh,
a day.
yeah.
Going,
Every
rate
single
these
day.
darts plus. Are they good? And so my standard. In fact, I have that response now set up in my notepad, and all I do is I just copy and paste it, and it just goes in. I've
I
just got
figured
the
you
code.
replied to those way too quick.
Yeah, no, I've got the codes copied and pasted in notes, ready, and then you just put the markdown code straight in, and it's done.
It's sorry. What's this? A bolt dart or
No, the bulk dart. Like, do I buy FVJs?
Like, every single dart that you could ever buy online is in one place, and which ones you should buy for what.
yeah.
And also, which sellers don't suck and won't send you crap. And if you actually want a Vobry, not an FVJ, who will sell you that Vobry instead of an FVJ? All the
Yeah.
ones on Amazon, you could be getting anything. It's like Russian roulette. And
Exactly.
if you're going to HVZ, you really want to have.
Actually, that's a good
Right,
resource where after the last HVZ, a bunch of the guys we use FVJs at HVZ because our war and HVZ darts have been interchanged. This is our monthly event with just 20 people. We have fun in the park. Some of the guys were using their Brast Sentinels, and we're leaving welts
God.
on us.
I actually still have a mark on my arm from getting hit by a brass breech sentinel at HVZ a week ago. Like,
Nice.
that shouldn't be there, but I can
And
still
we're
clearly
coming up
see
to
it.
the point where we need to do another a dart buy-up, and we are talking to Alex, who's really the main curator for HVZ Melbourne. We're probably going to just switch everything over to, the bowberries? Or what's the term?
Oh, Vobries are awful.
Vobries.
Man. They're a
Vobries?
terrible dart. You don't want to mess with those Vobry darts. They're shit. Of the highest order. They are just horrible.
So I guess,
when we
in
measured
about a month, we'll post a which darts do we buy?
Yeah,
And,
totally, and I'll get you with my link. The thing we found out with Bowberries, I've got to say a big shout to Nerf Armourer, because he tested Bowberries, and when he had his chrono, he was having like, oh my god, a chrono. And he had a whole week of doing some great tests, and he put a load of Bowberries up against a load of Koosh, and the Bowberries were costing on average 25 to 35% off the top of your velocities.
Damn.
Now, that is bad news for me. When you're talking about super stock, you want to maintain your velocity, because that's the whole point of tuning. Why would you want to tune something and then nerf it because you were using the wrong dart? That's just dumb.
The only problem we find
stem.
with Kooshes is that they don't feed into all blasters, especially kind of breach ones.
Yeah, they're not good on brass breach. That's entirely true. But you're better off in some ways. You're better off having a anything except Bowberry. Bowberry. The problem with Bowberry is that the plastic stem it's nearly as long as a streamlined stem. Not quite. It's not like that kind
really?
of bizarre. Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about it's about a half-inch or 12mm long plastic stem, and then the hollow tip. So the weight distribution on it, it's a 1.3 gram dart, and by all accounts, it should be as good as an FBJ. There's no reason why it shouldn't be as good as an FBJ. It's just the weight distribution is stock, basically.
Speaking of dart fit Koosh dart fit into breaches, I finally found this aluminum. I took a weekend and I spent way too much time researching it, because you can't find aluminum tubing in the U.S. and apparently it's a common thing.
What element?
He's going to get into the old argument of aluminium.
Aluminium.
Okay, now I know.
Now we've triggered Bobo Bob.
Wait, you can't.
We
You
can't.
can't find it in the US?
We aren't allowed to criticize
No.
each other for our
Not
different
only-
language idiosyncrasies.
Not only can you not find it in the U.S., but you can't find it on eBay, you can't find it on Amazon,
No,
you can't
it's
find
very
it
hard to find,
anywhere.
isn't it?
What-
It took me like
what
8
kind of-
hours of research to find the right tubing, and I got it. It was like $25 for 3 feet, which in hindsight wasn't really worth it. But
Well,
the
aluminum.
the fit is so nice for Koosh
Yeah.
darts. Totally worth it.
Well,
It's
if you
because-
look at if you've heard of Mostly Harmless Arms, they use aluminum barrels all the time. I know
Yeah.
people that do that. You should see where look around. I know they're out there. I know people.
Well, I know
use
that.
them.
What's his name? I want to say
Artifact.
one of the Angel guys. One of the various people who have Angel in their nickname.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, he
Are
uses.
they forgotten?
Angel?
Are they fallen? Are they lost?
They use. I can't
Forsaken
remember.
Angel.
Yeah. He uses a lot of that aluminium for barrel material, and it makes a lot of sense for barrel material because unlike plastic pipe, it doesn't flex and it doesn't expand under pressure the same way. And the downside is that even in the UK, where there's some really good, we're lucky in this country, we have a lot of small engineering factories because it's what we do. We've always done it. So if I want stuff like that, I can go to various places and I can go to the metal factors. In fact, there's one of the biggest aluminium factors in the southwest is like an hour from my house. So I can go there, I can go in, I can bemuse the poor lady at the counter for an hour and eventually get what I want. So that's not so bad. Or there'll be some cheerful guy in Birmingham who will sell me whatever I need over the internet. And that saves a lot of time. And they're great for barrels. But the problem is telescoping. And we haven't really solved the telescoping issue for aluminium, so that you can use, if you could get 6061 T6, which is a nice hard aluminium alloy, and get it surface anodized and have telescoping sizes, I would never touch brass again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can make breaches.
I'm on it.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that gives you a really nice fit. Aluminium is better than brass because the wall thickness is different. It's not as thin. It's not as crushable. Its surface hardness is better.
Plus, everyone does brass. You got to be different.
Yeah, for sure. And also aluminium, the way it's made, once it's got an oxide over it or it's hard anodized, unlike brass,
It'll never
it doesn't.
rust on you.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so you know that your dart fit stays the same from time to time. The only thing is that it's obviously thermal expansion is its issue. It does change shape a little, but it's not. I don't think it's as bad as that brass tube, because that must change a lot. Because the thermal expansion of brass. Am I correct in thinking it's bigger or lesser than aluminium? I think it's bigger than
I have
aluminium.
no idea, but I can't imagine it would be that big a deal.
Well, I know
Yeah.
because people reported in hot countries like SG where they would. That's why they use 9/16 mostly for their barrels, because
So
they would
I
find...
actually think that's more a foam issue.
Yeah,
I think
but they
that the
would find
darts
that it
that they
would
use
vary
use
a
a
lot.
thinner foam.
But
They
by the
do.
time
Yeah,
you get
and
to that
if
temperature
anything-
of deformation,
If
Yeah.
if anything, the foam changes more than
lot
whatever
more.
metal you would use in terms
Yeah,
of
yeah.
thermal expansion.
Yeah,
Right.
our silly tips, we got like a particularly thin foam, so they were a very loose fit in 60 mil electrical conduit, and then
Yeah.
when we swapped to these FEJs, everyone basically had to change all of their brass breeches
They're-
from having
they're very
9/16ths
fat,
to
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, FEJ is very fat. I'd like a 9/16 brass barrel for 13 or 12.7 darts. They work really great.
All right. We will bring. We will now transition into the mod shoutout section of the modcast. And then we'll probably finish up on stream viewer comments.
a few
Or
questions. So
questions.
if anyone watching has some questions for us, just ask them now because we'll just collect them and ask them all at the end.
Yeah.
how do you get your hair so wavy, Ryan?
another video?
Well, this is going to be the next video, so that's that question.
Yeah.
Justin, how's the gay snail support group going?
Fuck you.
Honestly,
fellow
just,
gay
you're
snail
just going
laugher,
to need to
dude,
own that.
Yeah, you need to get that as a T-shirt.
Maybe. We get
need a t-shirt that
we get a snail shell that's like transitions between like the rainbow colors or something. Like,
Yeah. That
Hawkeye,
would be
can
cool.
you do a multicolor rainbow cast?
No.
Oh,
I can do marbling.
Wait, why
can
don't
we get
you
a
do some?
multicolored rainbow?
Are you able
snail
to do
shell?
some slush casting?
Yeah, I can do. I have the stuff for rotational cast.
Well,
That's how I make my helmets.
Or just do that for like, just do different colors and just smush them together or something. I don't know.
Unfortunately for the smaller pieces, the only reason why I can even cast them and clear in the first place is because I have a pressure vessel, which I got extremely lucky. I'm gonna tell the story because it's totally worth it. I bought a $200 vacuum chamber, and then after I ordered it, realized, wait a minute, that's to devacuum the silicone, not to cast. And I had a panic moment because that's money I didn't have to waste. And the next day, I went to, believe it or not, Goodwill,
Oh wow!
and they had $1,000 vacuum or $1,000 pressure vessel from Smooth On, a really large corporation, for $200. And
I'm dying.
I got 30% off of it. So it was 140.
Damn.
That's why they look so good. I was gonna pick your brains as to why your clear
is the only
casts
reason why I
don't
can
have
do that.
bubbles.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I have
Yeah.
done a little bit of it myself, and it's just bubbles everywhere. And I'm like, how do you do this?
Because even if you're
Yeah.
using a solid resin, even though you can't see them, they're on the inside, and it does mess with the structural integrity quite a bit more than people realize.
Yeah.
And so having it perfectly solid is something
yeah.
that I have a major advantage over pretty much everyone in the community.
Also, it's optically perfect when you do that as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as optically perfect as you can get in resin.
I do have
yeah.
optically clear resin, and I do
Yeah.
not have the ability to use that very much. The one I'm using is slightly tinted yellow. When you put LEDs through it, you can't notice it at all.
No.
Which is the only reason why I'm using it. Because if I couldn't, then I wouldn't use it. Anyway, I have optically clear stuff, except it's extremely cancerous.
Nice.
And it's like, I got worried when I opened it and I couldn't smell anything, and there were so many labels on it. There's literally like 60 or 70 warning labels on it.
Doesn't that use isocyanate hardener?
Yeah. And so
Yeah, fuck, that
I
stuff's
was
horrible.
like, I tried it once, and I also have to leave it in the mold. There's this term called green, and that's basically when the resin is still flexible.
Yes.
It was too green to take out after 3 days of it being in
Damn.
the mold.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
So if people
That's
order
killer.
more than one every 3 days, I can't do it.
That sounds to me
So-
like it's a hardener issue.
That's just the way the resin works,
So
unfortunately.
it's a very slow curing time, probably to keep
There are a
the
bunch of
optically
factors to
perfect.
it.
It cures in an hour and a half, but the green
Right.
time takes forever, and it's so dumb.
Aha.
What temperature? What temperature do you have those things at? Just room temperature?
Room temperature usually about 75, somewhere on there.
Could you apply heat and increase the chemical reaction time? I only say this-
Unfortunately, that has the potential to warp or even crack
Right. Okay.
the stuff. And I don't
My
know
under-
too much about the thermal aspect of it, so I haven't really kind of delved into it yet.
Yeah, it's just
fun.
like my undergrad research was like actual like some epoxy molds and stuff. So like I
Yeah.
have a little bit of experience with this. But yeah,
I
it
used
was a pain
I
in
used
the
to
ass.
heat up fiberglass though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
One of the things we did in my undergrad was we built a fiberglass kit aircraft, which was quite fun. But we had to
Ooh.
time everything for the epoxy based on the ambient temperature of the workshop.
Yes.
So sometimes when it was really cold, it was just like, dear God,
My friend.
literally waiting for glue to dry.
Fortunately,
horrible.
I have a kind of advantage in that too, because once you start, doing this every other weekend, it's kind of something you just do naturally, and it's like, oh my God, I only have like 60 seconds to get this into the pressure vessel before I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I can do it with relative precision, but that's just something that, you need to
That's skill.
learn over time.
Yeah, I found that with dip and 2K paint, because a lot of my paint is 2K and it uses isocyanate hardeners, and I have to wear like a vapor mask and all that kind of stuff for doing those, and especially the clears. There's an awful lot of stuff goes on with those. The way the finish develops can be, you have to be really, really picky about temperature, and you have to be really picky about mixing.
Yeah.
It's a bit. There's quite a lot of science involved in it, in creating the art, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And the molding sounds like it's very much like that.
I'm totally going to cheat with mine, though. I plan on making my own Straven, and I'm totally going to take the time to make the optic clear stuff, just because
That'll
I
be
can,
cool.
and it's my blaster.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
I have one last question about your molding. When you sent the clear windows for the 180 windows that you
Yeah.
sent to Bobo, how did you get the two flat surfaces so flat? Was it just the mold itself?
It's really stupid because it's kind of duh thing, but you'd be surprised at how accurate the mold recreates whatever you put into it. Like if you have a fingerprint on something,
Yeah, I've
it'll
noticed
recreate
that
the
too. Yeah.
fingerprint. So I actually just cheated and used polycarbonate,
Nice. Yeah. I figured you might have done
and then
that.
I 3D
yeah.
printed the edge.
No.
And
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
super glue it to there.
Okay.
That's how you get the
Nice.
smooth side. That's what my guess was. So nice. Cause
That's so cool though.
I've cast a little bit of stuff that I get a flat, if I once casted onto a flat sheet of silicone like a baking mat because it had like a flat shiny surface. I thought, oh yeah, it'll be fine. But the urethane resin I had a little bit of shrink, so it actually like sucked up the silicone and kind of warped it, like, so I didn't get a perfectly flat surface. However, I cast it onto just a sheet of glass, because it shrinks, it creates that kind of suction stick effect. I don't know what you call that, but
Suction.
so to get that to release, suction. Sorry, I don't know if there's a specific molding or technical term that anyway, but so the way I got it off was an old trick that we used to use at Lapidary Club, which basically it was we faceting gemstones and carving stuff.
That's some top tier nerdery.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, man, that's definitely top tier nerd.
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome, man.
my
I salute
grandfather
you.
was very much into it, so it was kind of one of the things we did. Anyway,
Awesome.
to hold the gemstones and that, we'd actually we used molten hard wax with a stick, and then we just blop that onto the back of whatever you're working on, and then you can curve the other surface and work on it and polish it. And so you're working on this for hours and hours, and then to make it release, you just chuck it in the freezer, and then it just falls off. And so that's how I got my after my urethane resin had completely cured, I chucked the glass sheet in the freezer and it let go. So yeah, it's funny the things that you learn. and
Did I
reapply.
Did I miss it? What were you making?
I was mucking around with what was I doing? I was trying to kind of make um cast a breach around a piece of brass or something like that. I can't. What was I doing?
So
I've
just like free pouring.
Yeah, I was just free pouring into like cups. Sorry, into conduit couplers, and then putting brass inside of it. So it was like one of the things I was trying to do was just make. Everyone's like, oh, I need. How do I find a coupler for this, or how do I couple a completely different um what is it from one pipe size to another completely different standard, and I was just like, why don't you just resin cast a coupler? So anyway, so something I was experimenting with years ago.
God, I love science.
This is fun
Yes.
talking about this with people because you can't exactly. I don't really exactly have people that I can just go to and talk about
It's not
this and then be
something.
like,
It's not something
sure.
you just talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So
It
like
is with.
when
It
you
is.
are
It
with
is in my
your
house.
group of nerds, it's good.
Oh yeah, I
Oh.
mean, personally, I live with Justin and Alex, and so there's rarely a conversation that isn't Nerf. But
Yeah.
in the
I get up
wider
in the
sort of
morning, I'm half
community,
asleep, and then Alex just starts up the conversation of, "Hey, so you remember like 3 weeks ago when we were talking about that particular concept? Last night I spent 3 hours researching this, and like that, and, and like, and then I'm just competently talking about the topic while I'm half asleep. It's like, oh god, yeah. We're getting at the hour and a half mark, so let's actually talk about the shout-outs.
Oh right.
So
Those were a thing.
the first one that I wanted to shout out was the plasma rifles from Daryl Chung. I think he's commissioned them, and I think he's part worked on them. I don't know the full story, but he
as much as I know, he made one, and a friend of his made the other.
Yeah. Okay, and so
Damn.
the first one is
Wow.
the Tau plasma rifle. So anyone who knows the 40,000 or 40K Warhammer universe, so they're a race of aliens who are very technologically advanced, and so they make some cool stuff. And we also have an Imperial rifle, and these are both made up on Sentinels, and so yeah, they just look nice. Yeah.
There's such a cult following with the Sentinel these days.
There has
Yeah.
to be
It's
a Sentinel Circle Jerk Reddit. Like, that has to be made a
there's a
thing if
whole
it's not
there are
already.
Facebook groups about it. I think it's just.
Hey man,
I
I've
know
seen
there's a
Flywheel
Facebook group that's
Master Race.
specific to that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's Flywheel Master Race, and then there's like Sentinel Union or something. I don't know. I know it exists. It's really strange. I'm not sipping
It's an
Sentinel
alright
Kool-Aid yet.
blaster. I mean, it has its problems, I think, but it's kind of cool, I guess.
It certainly does, but I think the hype is that it's something that you can like out of the box almost breaks 100
Yeah.
FPS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zelda.
So
it just
just
stopped-
with that, just with that, it has so much potential. I see a lot of people now. I've seen a couple people actually do like pump grip mods to it.
It's an easy mod, kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's a nice blaster to start with. Actually, so its sister, from the same range, the Baron. My God, I love that thing. It's so tiny, but the whole inside of it is mostly just plunger tube. And that thing, yeah, that's gonna be teaser.
Yeah, the two-shot
the-
mega thing kicks
yeah.
butt.
Yeah.
So we also have here this. So these are some ones from a couple weeks ago. We have James Higgins Stampede that has like a voltmeter, and he's painted it black and all LEDs inside and some white paneling. I thought that one looked nice.
Interesting.
And yeah,
My
and
Stampede senses are tingling.
Yeah.
I love it.
and
The voltmeter I really like though.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
I
little-
like how he's done the rail. Yeah.
On the top?
The flat
Yeah, I
top
see
of
it.
it just looks really nice, but
The
keeping
LEDs
small
on the
little
barrel are
peep
very
sight.
subtle.
Yeah.
Well, I just like the voltmeter because, like, I don't know what barrel it's using, or excuse me, what batteries it's using, but that's like, hey, recharge me now. Like, it's
Is
like
it a
staring in the
voltmeter or
face.
is
There's
it
no
a
way to
dart
get out of
counter?
it.
Because it says 18
It
on it.
says I was
12.
just about to
That
say.
says 12.
Or 12.
Well,
Oh, okay.
18 volts is not unusual.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
to run through
god.
one of
So,
those. I
okay,
don't
going
know.
back to like when Ryan didn't know better because he didn't apply his science brain to it. The first Z town I went to was with a SG Nerf spring in a Stampede, and I ran that thing off 10 alkaline batteries.
What?
Yep. So I used 10 AA batteries, and in the testing that I did, it was fine. It shot. It worked all right, but I didn't consider the fact that batteries run out, and so I fired one shot, and then the second shot it didn't have enough juice to tick over.
Aw.
So I killed
So
one zombie
disappointing.
and then just immediately died.
Awesome story. That should have been your HVZ story, Ryan. That was a good
Yep.
one. I like that.
Don't use double A's, people.
Yeah. So, this
Yeah.
is one other stampede. This is from T Rin. He goes by on Facebook, and he posted this on Nerf Modders Welcome as well. And my God, just like a
I
nice,
want it.
yeah, the 3D printed railings, Picatinny railings for the front of a stampede, making it look sexy, and also the 3D printed Nerf gun, the gun attachments. So he's also got different attachments he's printed, but here is a picture with he's stuck on a long strike front barrel onto the front of it, the faux barrel, and I like this. So this pleases me.
So it shoots a lot farther.
there we go.
now.
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
long
yeah.
strike barrel adds at least 15 to 20 feet of range.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've now got a sniper rifle.
And speaking of sniper rifle, he's also got this 3D printed barrel that looks large and menacing. So, and yeah, if you guys are watching the stream,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about a 15-second delay. So that's
I can see it now. Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
ridiculously small. What is that? A unipod or a bipod?
yeah, I think that's
I
a
like
bipod.
how if you fold it down, it wouldn't even be lower than the hand grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that solved one of the big problems with the Stampede. The fact that its grip cuts off halfway. I really didn't like that in the original one. But yeah.
Oh, I
it's
just
good.
hate that connection from the back to the hand grip because my wrist would always press on it.
What, in the Stampede?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
from the base of the handle to the
Yeah.
butt, yeah.
I often
God.
cut that part off. It's
Yeah.
the whole like extended thumbhole stock thing.
Oh, at the time I was messing
It's
around with
cool.
Stampedes, the most advanced tool I had was, like a box cutter, so...
I have to say, I think that problem is going to occur on the Hyperfire for those of you
Fuck
who
the
don't understand.
Hyperfire, it
Yeah.
looks like something with some sort of birth defect.
But on the plus
Seriously.
side,
Oh.
there's loads of room. When we were
Hey.
talking about
God.
brushless, there's a shit ton of room
battery.
in the battery tray for
Yeah.
ESCs and for some really nice spanky electronics.
why I want
though.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
The first thing I'm gonna get one, and the first thing I'm gonna do is make a video and then cut it in half.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's gonna just make my eyes bleed every time I look at it.
I
I know
want
I'm gonna buy them because I need more full auto blasters. but
looking
man.
looking at its stock silhouette, you could easily cut out the shape of Tracer's pistols from Overwatch. I've been looking at it, and so that's a mod video. I'm already telling you. As soon as I get my mitts on it, I want to make Tracer's blasters from Overwatch, and that's going to get us views by doing a game tie-in for a Nerf mod.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yay!
I want to try to integrate a strife in the front.
All right.
See,
So what's AeroMech? What is
All right.
this thing that we've got on screen? If you can see it, the blue.
I see it. This
was your pick.
That was my pick, just because it's one of those things that isn't necessarily super practical, but it does solve a problem. Namely, I think that's a Cyclone Shock. It's a big mega pistol, but I just love the long strike stock, and so many of these blasters, like again from HVZ. This was made by Nerda SoCal, by the way. I found that on Facebook. But the long strike stock, I think, is very comfy. I've integrated that before a long, long time ago onto a Vulcan. Not very well. That's when I was kind of first getting into it.
Was that with the Stinger thing, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
a
remember
long
that.
time ago. I could do it 100 times better if I did it today, and I probably will at some point. But yeah, it's just a cool thing. I think a lot of these Nerf stuff is a lot better if you do have a stock. You can aim it better. It's more pointable. The long strike stock, or it looks like maybe
your
a
recoil
knockoff long
reduction
strike
as well.
stock. Oh yeah,
Oh,
totally.
jeez.
No, but the long strike stock, while it's not practical, it looks cool. If I was to run it, I would do exactly this. I would just take the barrel off. But it looks cool. Oh, and the red dot sight's a little hokey, but a lot of people do that. Cough, cough, Van James. I don't know why you'd spend $60 on EOTech for a gun that costs 20.
I'm
But,
a little,
you know, to each his
I'm a
own.
little obsessive about people when they get like the kits from Taobao and stuff, the 3D printed kits, and they put it on there, and I don't know. I
The
don't.
dress-up kit. That's what what
Yeah,
those
the
are. They
dress
call
up
them
kits.
in tuning.
I don't really get that.
Not really modding as such, but
Yeah,
It's not. It's a drop-in kind of thing. You're going away from like the modding, and you're just saying, oh, maybe screw this on, and that's it. So like, it gives you a sense of personality, even if you're not truly modding it. You're like, oh, this is so cool. And again, now it's like hardcore modding versus just people just getting into the hobby. So
On the
I
plus
used
side,
to really
though,
hate those kind of things. Yeah.
yeah, they're very well made
I-
though. Those kits, beautifully engineered, how they fit
Yeah.
together and how they pin, connect,
Yeah.
and they have no like permanent fixing at all, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's just another thing from a design point of view. It's like it's just one more piece of the puzzle to solve, and I just love doing this for that reason. You know? But yeah, even if you aren't a hardcore modder, it's kind of the gateway to say, oh, this is cool, but now what? I don't want to just keep buying stuff.
Speaking of gateways,
you know,
we
from
just
China
had
or
a
whatever.
comment
Yeah.
pop up. What would everyone here recommend for their first mod for a beginner?
Ooh.
Depends on what side you're on.
Wow.
But actually, looking just
Maybe
I just
slash
because
fire.
I just got it the other day, and so it's now all fresh in my mind, and I'm planning out a video series on it. The Baron, just because it's so tiny, but it's got a larger plunger tube than a Recon or the Retaliator in it. Like it's huge. And I think it's just got a couple different stages of potential, like just doing even just a mega dart, like just a coupler thing just to where are my words? Rebarrel
Over
it.
there.
Just oh, where there? Just to rebarrel it, just to try shoot just normal darts out of it. I think is going to be a thing. Because its stock spring is also just decent enough, and I think it's a good little. It's not. It doesn't look scary on the inside or complicated, so I think it might teach people things about just how the systems work. But yeah, that was mine.
Well, there's a gap. Quickly, I got to go and got to take my dog out, and I got to go and sort out feeding like the livestock that lives in the yard and stuff. So if there's anything else that I need to put in, I will. Anything else you want to put
We
in?
have one last thing for you.
Yeah,
We have
yeah.
up on screen right now your potato.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Oh
The
god.
awesome live potato, and that is part of the custom underbarrel Nerf tactical system. That is
I
for people.
I just got that acronym.
Yeah, you see, you've got to be paying attention, even if it is very early on a Sunday morning for you guys. So, yeah, that's just kind of, I trolled people with it. But if you really want to try that, it's possible, but you will need a very large sack of potatoes, and you will have to wire your potatoes in series. The advantage is that at the end, you can make lots and lots of chips, or fries if you're an American. You can make lots of chips out of them. So you can say that if you make your chips very, very small, you can say that you have a live potato-powered blaster, and it's got chips.
I just love how serious you are about this.
Exactly.
You
and that puts
realize
you at
if
the
you
top
have
tier.
enough of those in both series and parallel, you could probably kick up enough current to power a motor properly.
So you could have like a 20S,
I think this is a
20p
mod party for
bag of
us, Ryan.
chips.
Like,
You
seriously,
have like
we get a bunch of people and we work out how to set up all the electrodes and anodes and cathodes and anodes and we do like 200 potatoes to see if we can just get stock ranges out of a Nerf blaster, and then afterwards we just eat all the we get like a chip presser and turn them all into chips and just
Yeah.
Or you could
Honestly, if it floated 10 feet out of the barrel, I would totally use it.
oh
So
and
that's the
yeah.
challenge then, is to make a live potato powered blaster to beat the custom underbarreled Nerf tactical system at its own game. So
Yep.
I've got to say a big shout out to Reddit for that, because you really motivated me to make that blaster from zip
Top tier
ties and hot
stuff,
glue.
man.
Yeah, it was top tier all the way. And,
Reddit is
and
an inspiring place.
it is an inspiring place. There are some wonderful people on Reddit. Don't get me wrong. There are some wonderful, amazing people on Reddit. But it seems for every 5 wonderful, amazing people, there is at least one total tit.
It's not festering, it's fermenting. And without fermenting, you
yeah.
couldn't get beer.
Exactly. But also, you have to remember that when you have fermentation, a whole lot of shit floats to the top, and you've got to skim that off to get to the good stuff.
It's
And
a
that
very
is me
apt
finished
metaphor.
The
for the
Be
night.
willing to
The
skim.
cream rises.
Alright, Tom, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
And
Tom.
Thank you to the rest of you, okay? And I'm going to sign myself out slowly because I'm old and this technology is bizarre.
Good night.
See ya.
Good night. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too.
All right. And so,
Almost night.
I'm trying to find what your shout out was, Ben.
User disconnected from
Wow.
your channel.
What was
Do you need me to
yours?
send you the link again?
Hang on. Oh, that's right. I do have it. I think my brain's just like trying to not look at it.
What?
Hang on, here it is.
Yeah, that made sense.
My brain is trying to suppress the memory of seeing it. So, tell
Please
us.
don't tell me.
Yeah, tell us about the Flywheel demo missile launcher.
Oh, God.
So this is by Dartbeard, and I see this more as a concept right now because it's not really a finished blaster to me, but the concept is very solid and it's there. Like if you could fit these things into a box mag,
Oh, my.
that would be stupid awesome.
I have no idea if you're serious or not.
dead
I'm
serious.
taking him
I'm trying to think,
serious.
is this deadpan humor? Like,
No, I would.
I'm dead
So-
serious. If you went into a match and you saw someone carrying like 10 box magazines with these things in, you would run the other direction.
No, I would go straight for him because it would be like, wow, he's carrying 30 pounds of stuff. I can go right
What
for
is
him and
that
take him out in
flywheel
one
he's
shot.
using?
That is from a have written down motorized bazooka, and I really need to get my hands on one of those.
Nice.
I don't know how no one has figured this out yet, but apparently that fits it perfectly. He said he's getting like 70 FPS out of it with the stock motors, so I'm not really sure what that translates to with, demolisher missiles, but
that's just...
Does anyone have the mass of those things?
a
Well,
lot.
that's the thing. The ammo is
More
also
than a Nerf
so
dart.
expensive.
A lot.
A lot.
But
The demolisher missiles? Well,
Yeah.
it
couldn't
has the
you
potential
make,
to be something absolutely beautiful.
Couldn't you just make your own kind of rockets that would be like, I don't know, they have those foam balls and like pool noodles? I know
Yeah.
people have made them before.
Well, we've
Yeah.
we've
And then
made
that's
rockets
like
and that,
pennies.
and we've been looking into China manufacturers to get us grenades for our games.
Yeah.
And so
We've got one grenade that's actually shaped like a grenade, but it's a stress ball. But anyway, that's completely different. Like, someone needs to put a pusher in that thing and get, like, as you said, 10 and just full auto demolisher rockets.
Awesome.
That I
that's
would,
our
I'd be
wizard
amused.
class. we have a perk in our game type called wizard, where you sacrifice your primary, secondary, your melee, and you're just allowed to carry as many grenades as you want, and then you can throw them from a sack.
Yeah.
And they're useful because it forces people to go to their respawn
It's
point.
not useful. It's it's
and
it's just a
it
laugh.
kills anyone with
No.
it kills anyone using a shield in game. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, I've seen that and it amuses me to great end.
Yeah. All right. So, let us bring up.
I think that was about all the questions we had. Someone asked at the start where Alex was. Alex has been deported, so
not
What?
really, but
he got deported.
You're gonna start a rumor. Everybody post everywhere that he's been deported.
basically his visa ran out, and so it was cheaper for him to get to stay on. So he's found another course that he can do, get a new student visa. Student visa would be $20, but the course doesn't start for 2 months. He could get a holiday working visa, but it would cost him $1,000. And so it worked out cheaper to go home and visit home for 2 months, and then pay $20 for a student visa than to try and stay in the country. So
Oh, so you were
Nothing
serious?
wrong with that.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's been deported.
Oh,
no, he deported him.
Finished
He
his
wasn't
course,
forced.
and his student visa ran out, and it was cheaper to go home than to get the other type of visa. So
Yeah.
deported.
Okay. From
I think that's about it.
so Arcane MDSVA asks, what would you do if someone
I
corrected
already
you to
answered
say
that.
bullets instead of and gun to say bullets and
laugh.
gun instead of okay, whatever.
I think that's not a serious
I want
question.
to join this mod party. Well, Bobo, you know the how
Not
you
really
know,
a question.
Bobo, you know the TeamSpeak chat. You can jump in. And we'll add you to maybe the chat if we're gonna chat for. You can join the after party, Bobo. You can. You know the TeamSpeak.
after party.
I'll remember to turn on the oven this time.
So at the last,
I did not get
last,
that reference.
yeah. So, modcast number 3
You go
when we
and
had
I will
AeroMech
interject.
and Bobo and Alex. AeroMech and Bobo were drinking.
Nice.
Throughout the modcast, and then by the end afterwards, everyone stayed on chat, and we all chatted for 2 hours afterwards. While I fell asleep with my headphones on, and anyway, while
And I
drunk,
think we made fun of you for that too.
and while drunk, the AeroMech tried to cook brownies but forgot to put the oven on.
Wow.
No, that is not
Wow.
true. What happened is I put the oven on, but I put it on for a 30 minutes. I didn't know that the oven would turn off after 30 minutes. It was an automatic shut-off oven, so I was like, these are only half done, and I would come back every 15 minutes and check on it. And then only after 45 minutes of the oven being off did I realize that the oven was actually off. So I had to turn the thing back on to finish the cook cycle. So it wasn't like they were just sitting there like pudding. It was I thought they were cooking, but they
Okay.
really weren't.
All right.
Let's finish up the formal part of the stream here.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you very much for watching. Do subscribe to everyone. If you're not subscribed to AeroMech or Foam Data Services
You're an
or
idiot.
Hawkeye, yeah. Please,
Wow, way to be
links
blunt.
in the links in descriptions for each of these wonderful modders channels. What else? We have videos upcoming, including me fixing my replacing my graphics card on my computer because I can't do videos without a computer, and also us fixing up our setting up our
And
workshop.
Hawkeye's flywheel cage.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. So we have half cleaned the workshop, and then Ryan wanted to test out the Hawkeye's flywheel cage. So our thoughts on that, just experimenting, and we got more mods coming once the so workshop video is coming. So just of the new workshop for the new house, and also the multi-part series of doing Z-Town. I'm working out the best way to just compartment that and tell a story, episodic story. So Yeah, that should be good. So guys, what's upcoming to your channels, or if anything you're working on, you wanna maybe give a teaser for?
As we
Um,
wrap up.
well, way future projects. Someone mentioned, the shotgun cylinder for the cyclone shock.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Someone mentioned that it would be a good idea to put some sledge fire shells in there and make them interchangeable,
Lol.
and I've started looking into that.
Nice.
So a cyclone shock that takes shells.
Yeah.
Right, the sledge
Huh.
fire shells.
Interesting.
I have
That's
also
way in the future, though.
Yeah.
Way in the future.
Yeah.
I've also had ideas for like our third video on the channel was a mod party we had in early 14 or 15, and I'm mucking around there with a cyclone shot trying to do the 3-dart shotgun thing, and then like we kind of lost motivation for the project, and then Avery came out with that 3D printed thing, so I was like, ooh, nice. So I might actually have a go at something similar like that again. I want a shotgun.
And Arrow, any teasers or
Yep.
clues or working on anything?
Teasers or clues? I'm sorting through like hours of zombie footage right now.
Ah, yes.
Trying so like I have like one or two missions that are usable. I'm gonna try and see if I can put some of that together. And everything we kind of discussed before. Right now, grad school is taking over my life, so as of the end of May, we're gonna start production. You're gonna see another angsty-filled trailer for the summer season come up, and that will basically be the starting bell for everything.
Nice.
Nice.
And yeah, if you guys are heading to Nations vs Zombies, that's coming up later in the year, and yeah. All right. Thank you very much to our lovely streamers, stream viewers. We had, I think, a max of 15. We currently have 11. Thank you for sticking with us. And
Obviously, this will all be on YouTube if you've missed anything. So,
yes. So, bye-bye.
yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Longest outro ever.
Yes.
I know.